happening, guys? It's me back with another video. Today I want to show you guys off this new video with some new transition stickers, text, all of that, things to just make my channel look a little bit more pleasing. But the main thing I want to talk about is the Decisive Strike rework. What it is, what it does, how I feel about it, how other people feel about it, the problems with it, the pros, the cons, the whole shebang. I put up a screenshot of it. It's gonna come up in a couple of seconds. I would suggest screenshotting it because it doesn't last very long, but I'll read it off and hopefully you guys can see this. Now, this perk is Decisive Strike level 3, so keep that in mind. This is the best version of the new rework Decisive Strike. I'll read it. After being unhooked or unhooking yourself, Decisive Strike will become active and usable for 60 seconds. While DS is active, when grabbed by the killer, succeed a skill check to automatically escape the killer's grasp and stun the killer for 3 seconds. Succeeding or failing the skill check will disable the perk. Succeeding in stunning the killer will result in making you the obsession. Only one obsession per match. So I want to put in a scenario first before I get into too big into what my opinion is about this. I want to put in a scenario of the old and new Decisive Strike. 4 survivors enter the game. 4 survivors run Decisive Strike. Now this doesn't usually happen, but we're gonna just describe it like so. So with the current Decisive Strike, 1 survivor becomes the obsession. When they get downed and picked up, they get their skill check pretty quick. They get it, they escape. The perk's disabled, and they're still the obsession. Survivor number 2 gets knocked down, picked up, thrown on the killer's back. They have to use their wiggle bar to 33, 45, or like 30 progress, right? Decisive Strike trigger just happened. So all of that happens, and they have to wiggle to a progress. They get the trigger, they escape. Survivors 3 and 4 do the same. The obsession is still survivor number 1. With the new rework Decisive Strike, this is how it will now work. 4 survivors enter the game with Decisive Strike. Survivor number 1, none of the 4, we're going to assume that nobody is running any other obsession perks and that the killer isn't running any obsession perks. None of the 4 are the obsession. They enter the game. Survivor number 1 gets hit and downed, picked up, put on the hook. So now survivor number 2 unhooks survivor number 1, and survivor number 1 gets hit within 60 seconds. So survivor number 1 now has a skill check, not a great skill check, or not a hard skill check, just a skill check. And they land it and they escape. They are now the obsession. Survivor number 2 gets hooked. So now survivor number 3 unhooks them. Survivor number 2 gets hit, uses Decisive Strike, has no wiggle timer on it, uses Decisive Strike, gets away. It is unclear if survivor number 2 will become the obsession, considering there is only 1 obsession per match. That does not necessarily mean only 1 person can be the obsession. I think it just means only 1 person can be the obsession at a time. Now, I'm not sure about that because of the wording. We'll have to see when it enters the game. But now survivor number 3 gets hooked. Survivor number 4 unhooks them, and you know the rest. It makes it all 4 survivors can now use Decisive Strike in a different way, but they're time restricted. The killer won't know that the survivors have Decisive Strike until they get until it's too late, which is a plus, but the time restriction is a problem. You're taking a perk that works in one fundamental way, and you're essentially making it the equivalent of borrowed time. In its own kind of twisted way, you're making it similar to other perks. To what? Who does this benefit? Now, I did describe the scenario, and it does sound like it benefits the survivors, but it does seem a bit more weighed in the killer's favor. It seems like now they just, alright, as a killer main, you get unhooked. I don't know if you have Decisive Strike. I'm just gonna tunnel you for 60 seconds, because all I have to do is wait until the 60 seconds are up. I pick you up, and there's a 0% chance I get stabbed. Regardless of knowing if you're the obsession or not, once this rework comes out, that's probably what I'm gonna do. I'll just tunnel you for 60 seconds. And yes, a minute is a lot of time, but what are you gonna do when you get hit? Leave them on the ground for 30 seconds. Tunnel them for 30 seconds. Leave them on the ground for 30 seconds. It's a pain in the ass, but it's working around a perk. It's just the new Decisive Strike is not better than the old one. It's more beneficial to the killers, and it's not great. And I think people are misunderstanding what this perk is doing now. I did for the longest time. I did basically until I was making this video. I had a misunderstanding of what it was going to do. But the other thing is, what does it bounce around with the obsessions with? Does only one person stay the obsession after it happens? There is no wiggle timer. There's nothing. It's just, it's a strange new thing. They say it's new and improved, but I think it's new and just broken. I think it's not. It's a survivor perk that should be used to benefit survivors. They're taking one of our only perks to really combat the killers, and they're changing it fundamentally. They're changing it in a way that makes it almost unusable. Because now you can argue at 3, yeah, 60 seconds is a lot of time. But at 1 and 2, what, they're maybe 25 and 30 seconds? That's not a lot of time at all. That becomes problematic. And devs and the developers and everything have said that they don't feel any other perk in the game is as broken as Decisive Strike, and I highly disagree. Right? If they're going to take a survivor perk like Decisive Strike and change it so fundamentally, then why won't they do the same with No Ed? There are ways that you can change No One Escapes Death, but I'm going to leave the rant for now because I'm coming towards the end of the video. I want to just thank everybody that actually does listen, everybody that does watch. If you have a different opinion, I want to hear it. I don't want you to leave because I have a different opinion than yours. So just remember to like, comment, subscribe, do all that. Leave your opinions down below, and I'll see you guys next time.